For the first teardown, I want to get into the rear wheel because of the fact that I've never worked on a 3-speed hub that also had a coaster brake. And fortunately, now that I have the service manual from Schwinn, I can dig in and see what I might be getting myself into. That's what's happening on this episode of Featherstone Bicycles. In looking in the manual, in the 3-speed rear hub section, it starts off with just basic 3-speed rear hubs, no coaster brake, although, well, they do say that on that first page there. But anyway, it's general troubleshooting, and then it gets into specific hubs and what year they range from and what their serial numbers were, or their model numbers, I should say. So at any rate, we are looking at the back. It's the 3-speed hubs with the coaster brake, and there's 3 different styles. There's a Sturmey Archer TCW 3 from 1961 forward. There is one before that, but it was pre-1961. We know since our bike is 1981, it's a good shot. It's this one. It's going to be this model, if it is in fact a Sturmey Archer. The second one is a Shimano 3.3.3 Trimatic TA, and the third one is a Bendix Torpedo and F&S Torpedo. So it's going to be one of those 3, and in order to figure out which one it is, we're going to have to do a lot of degreasing. Maybe not as much degreasing as I thought, because I see there's some writing on the brake arm right here, so we might get a clue from that right off the bat. And it does say Sturmey Archer. Now the manual does have starts out with a whole disassembly instructions, and it starts out by talking about taking it apart from the brake arm side, but I'm gonna want to start here because I've got to take the sprocket off. I want to basically get that off and get the brake arm off so that I can get the spokes through and start the cleaning process, and then I'm gonna dig into the hub either later in this episode or next episode. Right off the bat, looking at that Sturmey Archer TCW 3, that's not what it says on here, although I suspect I'm going to see that on the hub here. But right off the bat, the exploded parts diagram doesn't look like this. It actually says the first part is this split ring. Well, it actually says it's a lock ring, which is this, but then there is a split ring. So it either doesn't show the lock ring and it shows the split ring, or vice versa. But in either case, it doesn't show both. So what I'm going to do, so since it's the drive side, it's left-hand thread. Let's see if I can, although, you know what? I think they may be right. I think that actually is not a lock ring. This is actually part of a part that I think they call it the driver. So I think you do take off this split ring first, and those divots are in there. I don't know if you can see that on the camera because it's really dirty. Are in there just to be able to get a pick underneath the split ring. And then there's supposed to be 2 spacers, which there are. can take the sprocket off. Okay, that's as far as I want to. Well, there's a dust cap that would have fallen off. I think that's all there. And then on the other side, I think it's just a matter of taking this nut off, the washer, and then I'm going to have to refer to the manual. I think the pictures aren't the greatest for the photography at that time, but that's the description. And what they suggest, or what they tell you to do, is to put this side of the axle in the vise. I'm just looking at that cone on the other side. See that? It doesn't look like it's... Oh, you know what? This just comes up. Obviously, it doesn't turn. There's two flats on this axle, and that has the flats in it. So obviously that couldn't turn. Be a locking mechanism there. So let's see if it just comes off like that on the other side. Yep. Here, I got to move. All right. So we've got it clamped down on the flats on the vise, and now we can unloosen this. Again, I'm not going to take it all apart. I just want to get this brake arm off so I can get the spokes out. Because that's what I do. I'm noticing it is a 3-cross spokes. This spoke crossing 1, 2, 3. So we're used to all that, especially since our bonus episode at the end of last season. Now, according to what they say, I thought I should be able to take this brake arm off, but that doesn't look like that's happening. All right, further consultation to the service manual. Let's give you a hint of what I'm looking at here. It says there's a lock nut, which I've taken off, then there's a lock washer, then a cone adjusting nut, and that's just the axle. So I've got to take all that out before I can remove the brake arm assembly. There is the lock washer. Yes, it has those two flats on either side. And then it's got this lock nut. And I can see the brake arm is getting loose. There we go. I'm going to put this, this part comes off right now, and we're going to see the inside guts there, and I believe this has the mechanism for the coaster brake, and there's some bearings in there. I just don't want to mess with that right now, but it will fall off as I'm moving the wheel around, getting the spokes out. So I'm going to put this locking nut back on there just to prevent that from happening. Now we can do what we usually do and take the wheel apart. PB Blaster work. You can see it looks pretty good. You could see how hard it was to get that rim strip off. I mean, it was just basically beyond its useful life. It was just totally hard plastic at that point. No more elastic in it, and it just came off in pieces. But when we get around to where the valve stem hole is, man, it is really rusty here. I would imagine, I don't know, that the bike was sitting. See, it's crazy though, because the rim on the outside is more rusty 180 degrees from where the rust is on the inside. And where the rust is on the inside, the rim actually looks pretty good on the outside. So that's a mystery. This hub back together, and on the other side you've got the dust cap, you've got the sprocket, you've got the two spacers, and then you've got that lock ring. second I was going to put the wheel back together, but then I realized I can't do that because I have to wait until the hub is clean. That rim was pretty bad in that one spot, but fortunately that's on the inside where it doesn't show, and I've got the surface rust off. There's a lot of pitting on the inside, but the outside looks good, so nothing on the inside hurt the structural integrity of the wheel, at least not that I could tell. But anyway, clean this up, clean these spokes up a little bit before I put them on the wire wheel. And I've said this numerous times in the past, but for somebody who's just here for the first time, I do this because I used to put them on the wire wheel as is when they came off the bike, and that raises up a lot of dirt and grime into the air. Even doing this, I still wear a mask because this process doesn't get everything. You may be wondering, why do I all of a sudden have pink towels? The reason is that I washed all my white towels at the end of last season, and I put them in with these new red shop towels that I had gotten, and there was a couple of these that I used in the last season that had gotten dirty, so I put them together, and yeah, they bled. So now I have red and pink towels. A little bit of new life. It's not that dirty. And I already shined up the edge of that on the wire wheel. Next episode, we'll take apart the 3-speed Sturmey Archer hub with the coaster brake and put it back together, hopefully. Thanks for sticking with me, and I hope to see you next time on Featherstone Bicycles.